The most important thing to know when making a button down attire is to confirm if the attire is for a male or a female. This is a female attire, so the buttonhole will be on the right side. Hence, the right side folding will be bigger than the left side folding. The right side folding is 1.5 inch, and the left side folding is either half or 1 inch. Going straight to the making of the neck, we're marking 3 inches upward and 3 inches downwards. Mind you, this neck will be smaller than what we need, but it is just enough to get our work started. So after getting our neck, we'll be marking our shoulder. Then from that point, we'll take a 1 inch measure mark downwards. We'll be joining the neck to the shoulder before we take the actual shoulder. So we'll be taking the actual shoulder on the slant line. Then we'll be adding a 1 inch for the sewing allowance. You can use ½ inch for your sewing allowance if you want. Yeah, so from that point we'll be marking our bust line, and that is 10 inches from our initial line. Mind you, we are not marking under the bust, we are marking from the shoulder to the bust. We are not marking under the bust because we are not making any dart. If we were to mark under the bust, that would mean we'll be making a dart from the waist to a distance before the butt. So what we'll be doing now will be to mark our armhole line, which is 8 inches from the shoulder line. So we marked 8 inches from the shoulder line to get our armhole line. And we'll be going straight to the tummy. We'll mark our tummy from our shoulder. We'll be joining all marked points with a line. Then from our initial line, we'll be marking our length of our gown. I actually chose to record this making because I like the shape of the client I'm working with. She has a very small waist and a big hip, which will make the curves I need to come out. Anytime I'm working for her, I always like to record it. So we'll be taking our turning from our gown length. So you can use 2 inches, 1 inch, 1.5, depending on how big you want what you are turning inwards to be. So after finishing with the length, we'll be going back to the hip. Now I'll be taking our hip measurement from our waist. You can take the measurement of your client, or you can just guess. Basically for an adult, we use 8 inches from the waist. You can use 8.5 if you feel the person is a little bit tall. Or just to be sure, you can just take the measurements of the client. Then after doing all this, we'll be going to the most important part of the measurement. That's our shoulder line, our armhole line, our bust line, our tummy line, our hip line, and our gown length and the turning. So like I said earlier, I'll be going to the most important measurement in this whole outfit, which is our buttonhole line. So we'll be taking ½ inch all through like that from the beginning line. You take that ½ inch straight to where the neck is. Now that line you just made now is the most important line in the making of this outfit, because they will overlap each other on that line. So from that buttonhole line now, we'll start taking our measurements. Our bust is 9 inches. We'll mark it. We'll add 1 inch for the sewing allowance. Then we'll add 1 inch for ease. Now the 1 inch you're adding for ease will later become 4 inches when you finish sewing your outfit. So that's why I don't usually add 2 inches for ease. So we'll be dividing the tummy, which is 30 inches, by 4. We'll mark, we'll add 1 inch for sewing allowance, 1 inch for ease. Like I said earlier, the 1 inch will later become 4 inches. So the outfit is not really a tight outfit like that. It's something that's just going to be free on your body. The ankara material is of high quality. It is strong and thick, so you don't really need much of allowances like that. It's just gonna stay on your body firmly. So just divide the hip also by 4. We'll be adding 1 inch for the sewing allowance and also 1 inch for ease. Now from that hip point, we'll be taking our measurement we took for the hip. We'll be taking the same exact measurement on the gown length. So there's no need to measure. We'll just transfer the measurement from that point down to the hip point and the turning point. So from there, we'll just join both with a straight line. So from that hip point now, we'll be joining to the tummy, and from the tummy, we'll be joining to the bust, from the bust to the armhole line. Now we'll be taking the shoulder point downwards. Now from that point, you can take 2 inches upwards, or you should take 2 inches upwards, then you join to that point. The essence of taking the 2 inches is just to get a curve. There's nothing actually special there. So after that, we'll just cut off what we've actually marked. As you can see, the curve is all coming out. That is exactly why I like recording anytime I'm working for this client. So that line is, like I said, is important. That line will also be what we'll be using in cutting out the back piece. So the material I actually used is a little bit less than 2 yards. So the remaining part of the material is exactly what I folded into two, because I actually folded the material into two before I started cutting. So after cutting the curve, you could see the curve from the back piece. Now I just placed it on the buttonhole line. So I placed the back piece on the buttonhole line. So the back piece is beginning from the buttonhole line. And instead of much stress, I will just cut the same exact shape out. But at this point now, I'll just cut the shoulder straight all through. So in getting our neck now, I would mark 1 inch downwards, use my chalk to create a curve to the point at which it reaches the neck. As you can see, the back piece is ½ inch. That is from the buttonhole line. They are not both on the same line. So after that, I'll start our sewing process. So both button lines of the attire will be sewed on the edge. The one folded by 1½ inch will be placed on the line of the buttonhole. That is, will be placed on the one folded by ½ inch, which will be containing the buttons, and you'll be hemming with a thread. So we'll be joining the front and the back piece through the shoulder line. So we'll be sewing on the right, and we'll be making a ½ inch sewing also on the left. So after joining both, we've succeeded in joining the front and the back piece. So we'll be going straight to the neckline. The neckline is actually a little bit technical. So from the onset, you could tell that I've already covered the buttonhole line. I've used the buttonhole line to cover the line that will contain the button. So that is how you get your neck measurement. So you start a measurement and you measure it all through. So the neck measurement I got here is less. So I'll be increasing by taking 1 inch downwards and making a curve. So after making a curve, I'll use my scissors to increase up to that curve. So you can start your increment by gradual process, by maybe ½ inch downwards and making a curve, then you cutting off. Now, that is how to get your neck measurement. But to get your collar measurement, after you've gotten your neck measurement, you open up the buttonhole line and take the entire neckline. That entire neckline is what you use in making your collar. And if you don't know how to make a collar, I have a video of how to make a shirt collar. You can check it out and see, so that we don't waste time on this particular video. So I'll be checking to see if my collar and my neckline is exactly the same measurements, because my collar will be fixing my neckline from the beginning to the end. my collar to my neckline. The next thing we'll be working on will be the sleeve. So the sleeve is going to have the fabric piece on the edge in form of a design. So our round sleeve is, I think, 13 inches. So we cut actually to 14 inches. So we'll be sewing to reduce to 13 inches. So after sewing, we'll be using our pressing iron to straighten everything. So when you're sewing anything that looks like something like a male outfit, you do much of ironing because everything has to be joined in a way that it will look like nothing was joined. It just have to be smooth. So after turning it with the iron like that, we'll be using your scissors to trim off all excesses on both sides. So after trimming off the excesses, we just sew on the edge. Now we've gotten our sleeve prepared. So you'll be using that sleeve to check the armhole. Mind you, if your sleeve armhole is smaller than your body armhole, there's a big problem. So if our shoulder to our bust is 8 inches when you're cutting your sleeve, you just make sure when you're cutting your body of your cloth, just make sure for your sleeve it is 9 inches, just so your sleeve can be bigger in terms of circumference than your armhole, so you can always reduce. So after doing that, we've gotten our stitched sleeve to our body. Then we've also folded the length of the material downward, so we'll just be sewing. So as you can see, the buttonhole line is open, so we'll be fixing the buttons and making our buttonhole line, and our outfit will be ready.